Okay, it's like take 6 or 7, Java and SQL. Kind of really not in the best mood right now, so let's try to make this work. So first, there was some like rambly stuff or whatever, and then like I uploaded a 31 minute video, and you can only do 15 minutes if your account's not verified, which my YouTube account for school isn't. So I got that worked out. I'm like, good. Re-uploaded it again, and I'm checking right now, the manual mute button on my microphone was engaged, so it was just like this high-pitched whine, which I think this microphone does. I need a new one. That's all you could hear for 31 minutes. So the good part is for the time I just wasted, and a little bit more than I'm about to waste. I've done this before, so it should be a little bit more polished, but we'll see, a little faster. Alright, so this is about how to use Java, specifically Java, to talk to database, to Oracle. So in more general sense, it's to teach you how to do use programming to manipulate data in a database management system. So what you're about to see, here's the way I want you to think about it the whole time. It's going to be kind of bare bones the examples you see, but just keep this in mind. If you have a programming language that's talking to a database and getting data from it and making changes to the tables and stuff, once you have a programming language talking to the database, you can do all kinds of stuff. So I know some of you guys are like the Java classes. I think you're doing Java FX. I heard that's like GUI. So I mean, you could make all kinds of neat stuff that would populate with data from a database connection. Based on just what you've got here, you just can kind of build on top of it. The whole point is so far you've been isolated to SQL Developer. Maybe if you can get the SQL, the SQL client, the Oracle client working, you're pretty much in the Oracle database world exclusively. But if you can get some other framework, like in this case it's Java talking to Oracle, then that opens up a whole other world of what you can do with the data that you manipulate and retrieve from a database. So anyway, this class doesn't presuppose, there's no prerequisite of programming, so some of you might not have had Java. I think most, if not all of you have, though, because from what I've heard you talking. So some of this, I'm going to try to make it to where somebody who's never programmed before can sort of follow along. But anyway, you will need NetBeans, and I'm not going to install a version. I'm going to just show you where to go. I was going to show you which one to pick, but it gets confusing. I'll just tell you the version that I'm using. Let me show you. As a matter of fact, that's the best thing to do. In case there are any differences, this is the version I'm using. 8. What is it? Oh, it's 19.2. Why did I think it was 8.0.1? Oh, that's probably the Java I'm using. Anyway, if you want to know which version I'm using, SQL Developer. Shoot, see, already I'm not starting over on these. So I'm gonna start up my NetBeans. It's 8.0.2, I think. Yeah, that's it. So if you download NetBeans, and it probably will be pretty much the same regardless of the version, even if it's I think it's up to 11 something now. Something about Apache's involved now. Anyway, if there's something that just doesn't work, you can still, if you Google for this specific version, you can download it from the netbeans.org website. So let me show you where I've got that pulled up. Just go to here and search around, and you can get the specific version you want. But I imagine, I haven't tried it, but the latest version should work. So, anyway, you'll need NetBeans. Normally you would have had NetBeans in class, so let me talk about that. The lab. Here's the lab. No, that's not the lab. The lab is a Word document right now. This is H drive. I've actually... Why does it say H drive? I know... Oh, no, okay, I see. It's in 2 places. I need to fix that, probably. This has been updated, and I'll probably send you're not in class. Okay, originally this was done in class, and so the first few things I'll walk you through is just how it was done in class. And like this, basically, when you get to this yellow stuff, this is where you would like mess around on your own and answer some questions based on what messing around with the code. I'm gonna do basically we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to do the original lab. It's just set virtually. So this is the this is the lab instructions. I'm going to do the first part here and show you. I'm not going to like go through every number. You can do that on your own, but I'll show you how to get started up to where you can do it on your own. So let me put this aside for now. This is my NetBeans up and running. I've already got it running. I've actually already downloaded the lab. Let me get back to that. First of all, let me do this. I don't need this anymore. I need this to upload later. This is the instructions. What you need to download is DB Practice. This is zip and OJDBC 7. It's not Corona. It's just when I talk, I start coughing. Okay. You need this Java database connector, something like that. It's the thing that allows Java to talk to Oracle. So you need to download this and install it in NetBeans. I'm about to show you how to do that. So download these two things and extract them and follow basically the directions. This is probably a good idea. Java what? God damn it. Java what? I am not restarting this. Java practice. Java. What's the? Okay, not there. Who knows what I'm showing you to? Java practice. Yeah. So on my desktop, I got a folder called Java practice, and I just extracted those two things and put them in there. So what you extract with DB practice, what this is. Let me do this. Have some fun. This is the a NetBeans project. So you just extract that, put it somewhere where you know it is, and then you direct NetBeans to open it. Then once you have NetBeans open, you'll need this. There's a jar file in here. It stands for Java Archive. Kind of think of it like a DLL in Windows. If you're familiar with that, dynamically linked library. It's got stuff that allows Java to talk to Oracle in it. Then you have to like plug it into your Java project to make that happen. So let's go ahead and assume we've done that. I think I'll just dismiss all of this so it doesn't get in the way. And I've already got my NetBeans started. So what I'm going to, this is what you will do. You'll go to File, go to Open Project, not New Project, but Open Project. And then it's probably already on it, but I'll show it as if it weren't. So you know what? So if I'll go to my desktop. It's where I have Java Practice. Open up that file, and this is what you want to look for. You want to look for DB Practice. If you've extracted it correctly, it may or may not be inside of a folder of the same name, but you want to find the thing that has this icon that shows that it's a NetBeans project. So it has this funky icon instead of a yellow folder. So select that and click Open Project. And once you've done that, you should have a navigation pane somewhere, the projects window. Make sure it's just that project DB Practice, and then you want to navigate down to Source Packages, and then open up, this is called a package folder. Inside of that, you'll have several Java files. They will, if you've done it correctly, it should have these bangs, warning signs on it, which I'm glad mine's still there. Because I've done this before, right? I've done the stuff I need to do, but I want to be where you're at. The only file we're working at for the lab is example 1. You guys are encouraged at the end of the lab. It says, go do this, mess around with these two too. So I encourage you to do that as well. But you might just go ahead and double click on the first one, basic example 1, so you can open it up and look at the code. But before you'll be able to get the code to run, this is what you need to do. So like get ready to pay attention and follow along. It's not that complex, but I don't want you to miss any steps. So what you do is you go to Run, go down to Set Project Configuration, then go over to Customize. There might be another way to get here, but this is the way I know. So go to Customize, because you're customizing this particular project. And then you want to, over here on this side, the tree, pick Libraries. And you see how it has these broken references? That's because inside your code you're making references to these things, but you don't have the actual library installed yet. And the way you do that, install the library, is go to add jar/folder. So jar archive. And that's that other file that you've got that you downloaded from the class page. So go find where it's at. It's on my desktop. I could have already been in the right place. Java practice. And it's this thing. It'll look like, have a coffee cup if you've got the right thing. So click on it, click open, and pretty much I think just okay at this point, yeah. And you should see you might not see it right away. You see how it's still red? There's still problems. In that case, if that happens, just go to run and then go to clean and build project. And that should resolve everything and let it know, it'll trigger it into looking for the stuff that's missing, which you've supplied at this point. At this point, you can run it. Cross your fingers. Every other time I've tried to run it, it'll work. You probably click the green button if you want to set. You can go down to set main project to DB practice, and that's pretty foolproof. If ever you click on the green button and it doesn't work, then just right click and pick a run file. Shift F6. But go ahead and run it, and you should get this J option pane for you guys. Probably the guys who've had some Java know this already. Just in case you don't, this is one of the simplest GUI things you can throw into a Java program to give it a GUI feel. What this does is it prompts you with a message that you can customize, and then you type what the response is in the text box, and it will return that as a string. And again, if you haven't had programming before, it's kind of hard to get into describing, but I'll try to show you here in a second. So what you put here is your username, which for me is CJ Nicholson, and then the password. So my password is SPRIG 2020 thing, just for now, because I knew I was doing this lab. So it's not my normal one, so don't try anything. So it should be, if I remember to reset it after this video is uploaded without being muted and working fine, then it'll be changed. Alright, so it's prompting you little pop-up dialogues telling you that it's about to add a new customer to the customers table. So at this point, you might want to look at the customers table. Mine's a little different. I don't know if I remember this. I forget which take I said this in. It might not have been this take. But I've made some permanent changes to mine, which all the changes you do in this file, running this basic example one, are rolled back unless you comment it out, which I did in a previous take that you won't ever see. So mine's a little different. You have 1 through 5 customers. I have 1 through 4 and 6. I think 5 gets deleted and then I don't roll it back. So anyway, you want to take a look because you don't want to violate referential integrity, right? It's asking you to enter somebody, and every time I do this, I lose track of my box. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, there it is. So, you need. I can put 5 now, I think, even though it was deleted. I can do 7 for sure. So I'll click OK, and the new customer ID I'm going to enter is 7. Now, you guys just did sequences, whether you did sequence or you did the thing that I showed you with, what was it? It's kind of like an identity. You could make it where it doesn't need this at all, right? It's probably the best way to do it. But in this example, you're explicitly giving the primary key. So I'm going to do 7. I used my other dog that was crying last time and barking. They're kind of settled down now, so that's also a pro of doing this other take. But before it was Charles Crispin Peabody. This time it's going to be Elizabeth Barrett Brownie. Her name's Brownie. His name's Crispy, but his real name's Crispin, but we call him Crispy. Okay, tangent. So I'm just gonna put Brownie. Now I'm gonna put Elizabeth and Brownie for the last name. The date of birth, she was born the same day he was. They're litter mates. They don't have littermate syndrome. They do like each other a lot, but they're not crippled by it. They were born in 2015 on April 11th. So they just had their birthday, yes. And I'm going to put my phone number growing up because we sold that house a few years ago, and I kind of want to get this number back, actually. Maybe I'll do that sometime. Anyway, and we had an error. Let's see what the error was. It's good to have an error, actually. Name is already used by an existing object. I think maybe from my changes earlier something went wrong. But you notice that it does. Let's just ignore that, and I'll talk more about what just happened in a second. But you see it does it's reporting that it added Elizabeth Browning and all this stuff. If we look at the database, actually, let's see what we get. Let me delete that. Crispin. I don't see. Well, it's rolled back at the point that it is. So that's probably why. I really should have started with a fresh version of the database. It looks just like yours, probably. So let me go ahead and show you the code. You can you got to see a run of what it does. Let's look at the code though itself, where there's nothing, and I'll tell you what's kind of going on to the best of my ability. I don't know every single thing about how the JDBC works, but it's fairly similar to other things I've used in the past. So there's a common paradigm for this. That's so you can see how they correspond to each other. So what we have is, first of all, it's Java, so everything's in a class. Then you got main, this is where all your execution starts. And then you just have these things, a connection, I'm not sure, let's see, what's that from? Can you tell? I don't know if it's from the, it's from SQL. It's from the SQL import here. You have something called a connection class. So we create a variable for that. We create a variable for a SQL statement, and then we create a string, two of them, one for the username, one for the password. So everything's in a try block because all these database actions that happen with this client, this program you're running, could fail. So, and they did. You just noticed it failed. Something in my code. Yours probably won't, as long as you put in the right username, password, and type in something above 5 for customer ID. Yours probably won't crash. I messed with mine, so it crashed. But anyway, things can crash, so you put everything in a try block, and hopefully you can catch exceptions and deal with them. So it's typical because you could put in the name of a table that doesn't exist, or the wrong data type for a column in a SQL query. There are a number of things that can make it crash. You can have a runtime error. So almost always you will put your database activities with these kinds of libraries, these drivers, in a try block. Well, at least one. This one's got one big one. Ideally, you probably have it in separate little ones, but this is not as elegant, but it's fine. All right, so you have this. First of all, you register this. This is just telling it that you're using a connector that talks to Oracle. It just gets everything started for this driver. And then this is the dialog you saw at the beginning for logging in. So this prompts, comes up on the screen, prompts this. You type in the text box, and what you type is returned as a string that goes into the string that you declared up as a local variable. Same with the password. And then you use that with the driver manager get connection method, and that will give you a connection object that you can use for the rest of your session. And the parts, this is overloaded to get connection. I can't remember all the different ways you can do it, but one way for sure is connection string plus the username and the password that were supplied by those option panes. So if you notice, this connection string has the info you need to get to our server. There's the IP address. It's whatever that session ID, not session ID, but the ID thing that you can. There's different ones, right? ORCL's one, so that's there. The port's there. 1521, and it's an Oracle thin client. Thin client means that it's just the bare bones client that's used for input and output, that's talking to a server that's doing all the work. So there's not really any processing on the client side, very much, if at all. That's why it's called thin client. All right, and it's the Java database connection library. All right, so once you've got that connection, I'm assuming, I haven't ever used a connection that's done this before, but I'm assuming set auto commit to false just means that it doesn't automatically commit like when you close the connection. It doesn't like run a commit and then close. So like, if you put it on true, I guess it would. That's an option you can make for DML statements. Like I think SQL developer, if you close the connection, and anything that's pending changes that you haven't committed, I think are committed automatically, but double check me on that. All right, so then you have these. First of all, this is where you're starting to create a statement that you execute. And let me tell like in general terms what you're going to see here. There are two main kinds of statements in SQL that you will execute. There's execute update, which is any kind of SQL statement that doesn't return stuff. So like an update and insert, a lot of DML ones actually. So update, insert, drop maybe. These are things that don't give you something back. They just do their thing, kind of like a void function, a void method in Java. And then there's execute query, which has results. And the results come back as a structure that's in the form of rows and columns that you can iterate through. And I'll show you that here in a second. So getting ready to add new customers. So what they want from you as the user, they're going to add, all these J option panes we went through. It's getting stuff for the proper data types for the columns in the table that it's going to create an insert for. So the primary key is a number, so int makes sense for that. First name, last name, strings, that makes sense. Java SQL date. This is going to be a special thing set up to make sure that the date that you get, the date for Java that's built into the language and the date for like an Oracle database are probably slightly different in format. So this should take care of the format that you need. I guess time and timestamp, if those are, I don't remember those being needed, but it gets them anyway. Creates them. It doesn't get them from the J option pane though. You notice it just initializes those variables. So it doesn't initialize it declares those variables. Anyway, and then you get the phone number as you saw before. And then this is where you actually do the work. So you take your statement that's based on that connection you created above, and you execute update, and you just put the statement in here, plus these variables serve as like parameters. So you guys who know Java realize that this is just a string, right? This is a string that's concatenated together with a bunch of stuff, and the actual variables are inserted in here. So that if you actually printed this out to the screen, it would be a SQL query with the correct values that you want to add to the table. It's a record, right? It's an insert. This is just a information. After it's done, it'll say, "Hey, add this table." Then it adds. Let's see, does it updates one by first name update customer set for, so it changes somebody's name. It changes the name of the first person who is Jean. I mean, it's still Jean or Jean. I don't know if it's Jean or Jean, but anyway. So it does an update, and you see how it works. You create the state, you build the state. This is a paradigm again. You build the statement, then you execute it. So execute update. Here, this is just, you don't have to actually really build it. It's just like it's pre-made. Like nothing in here is a parameter, so you just do the string. So you knew ahead of time it was going to be 5, and it's a literal 5 that you have in there. And that's where my 5 got deleted, because normally it would roll back. Before we get to that, let me show you the select. And I think I might be telling you more than you need to know, but you do need to know at least this one thing, and then I'll let you look at the rest of it. But result set is what you use as the return value from an execute query method, and what that's going to, those are used for selects, anything that returns stuff, right? It's going to return a bunch of rows or a bunch of records. And the way you iterate through, at least one way, is to, you've got, it returns everything, it stuffs it into this result set, and then you do a while loop based on next. Next just means, is there another record that I can read? If there is, then this will return true, and it reads it. And you see how you have to know the structure as a programmer of what the result said. You have to know that there's a customer ID, which is a called customer ID, and it's an integer, so you get int. It's kind of like the scanner class in a way. If you think about it, you can next int, next line, whatever, next double. In this case, the result set has a get int and a get string and a get date. You have to know the order they're coming in and the names of the columns, though, and the data types to get the proper thing back and stuff it into a variable in Java. Once you see it's going from Java to database to Java, you have to know how to do that translation based on how these methods work for the JDBC thing that we had to stick in as a library. And again, it won't be exactly like this in other environments, like if you're doing if you're doing like C# and SQL Server, but it will be very similar. I did Android with SQLite one time. SQLite is actually, what you'll notice here is that a lot of this is like explicit literal, mostly literal SQL queries. In some environments, it's a lot more elegantly packaged. So, I remember when I was using SQLite, instead of saying insert into blah blah blah, you would use an insert method, and you put the proper parameters in there, and it would generate the SQL pretty much invisibly and send it. Right? You didn't actually have to type out insert into. So there's different levels of abstraction with this too, but the paradigm's there, where you make a connection and you send SQL queries to it, and then you might get results back that you have to iterate through. This will keep going until you're out of records, and you call next on the result set, and you've already been through all the records. It'll return false and stop. But until then, it'll pull in one record, right, one row, print out the results, and then go on to the next. And then it's a good idea to close that. There's several of these that you can close. Here's the rollback, by the way, which I commented out before. I'm going to do it again. But anyway, I don't recommend you do it until you mess around and answer all your questions and stuff, and then mess around with it as much as you want after that. So that's the two major kinds. You can figure. There's a few more like this here. You can figure them out on your own and answer the questions in the lab. Again, this is just creating a whole new table. I'm going to keep. Did I keep that table? I think I have. Oh, that's why. That's why I got an error before. Because I created this table already. Here, can we do this? Let's see. Let's do this on the fly. This is going to be bad. I don't have to do that. Let me do my statement dot execute. This is going to blow up in the face, I know. I'm going to drop table addresses. Don't see any semicolons down there, so I guess I don't need that. I misspelled my statement. Let's capitalize that S. Let me find my cursor. It's on the other screen. Oh, stuff I've been through tonight. Do I need to close? I don't think I need to close out. Just leave it open. That'll be for the next run. I'll run it one more time before I go, and then maybe we'll see that it'll fix. I hope it fixes that. Is there another rollback here later? Probably. I don't remember. Yeah. Oh, there's this. No, let's see. It wasn't already there then. Never mind. I don't need to do that. We'll see. I'll run it again and see what's going on. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So, from here, I think if you especially if you miss some, you can rewind now and figure out how to put that library in. Let's put something way bigger, simple stuff. Oh wait, this is the wrong part. Should crash maybe here. Yeah, it'll crash if you don't complete it. CK Nicholson. Got dogs starting to bark again. It's so nerve-wracking. Alright, let's do 20. Charlie Brown. Something simple. 19. I hate making up data. That's why it's usually January something when I do it. I'll do the same phone number. Alright. I don't know what's making that error happen. I'll have to check on it. But regardless, let's look at our database. I think, yeah, so I got rid of the rollback, and you can see that it actually affects the database. That's the thing to me I didn't like about the rollback before, because you could see what it was printing out in the Java side, but like, did that really do anything to the database? So that's why I took the rollback out. Again, I suggest you don't do that until you're done with the lab. Then mess around with it however you want. Just follow what the lab says, in other words. What else was it? Oh yeah, I wanted to check to see why that's crashing on me. What does it say? Sometimes it's hard to debug these things as you go on. Let's see. 180 executes. It is creating the table. Was it because already used by an existing object? Yeah, so like, I don't know how that, maybe because I like crashed earlier and it didn't actually drop it. So that drop that I put in there might have worked. Let's drop table addresses and run this again. One more time. The last video was this long, so we're okay. Because I got verified, and I knew this video was going to be one long one, because breaking this up into parts is going to be kind of like hard. I know I'm kind of rambling, but that's kind of what this lab's about too. It's just like kind of getting in and messing around. For the basic example 2 and 3, you'll notice, like, I know at least 2 if you run it. It sort of does everything automatically. It doesn't prompt you to input anything. So that might be interesting to look at and see what's going on with it. Alright, adding a new customer. Let's do Brownie this time. So Elizabeth, her name's Brownie because I rescued this dog from Onada. It was in single digits. This is a long story. Domestic abuse was going on. Woman left in the middle of the night, and then it ended up on Facebook. My friends in Nashville are like, "Doesn't Chris live near Onada?" Well, it's an hour away. Anyway, I took her to the vet 3 times, and the vet's like, "You're feeding her too much." She was pregnant. That was the problem. So she had a litter, and we kept 2 of the 4. And so originally I named him. So like, I'm not telling you the story. I named him originally because, like, descriptively, so I didn't get attached. So we never changed Brownie's name because she was the only one who was brown. All the rest of them were like blue merle pattern. They have blue eyes. Anyway, that's enough. Last name, Brownie. Date of birth, I'll do her birth, which was 2015. April 11th. And honestly, like, since I think we caught what the error was, and that's all I'm really checking on right now, you could have probably, tuned out at this point, before this point, but let's go ahead and just make sure she's in there now. And there were a few other, there's an addresses table that's still being dropped, so that's okay. But if you wanted to, you could just comment out that drop table line and see what the addresses table even is. It doesn't really. I didn't stop to look to see what the code was doing, so it would be good to see it in the database from customers. Customers, that would be a good name for a table. If you were anyway. Run it this way. There she is, Elizabeth Browning. So they litter mates born on the same day. That, I think, does it. Here's the thing: if you have any question, whenever you're doing like adding the library and nets beans and blah blah blah, that can go wrong so easily. So I understand if somebody gets stuck and they're like, "This won't work." Send me an email. Let me know. We get on Teams. I can walk you through it maybe. Otherwise, look at the video a couple times. You might see what you're missing. It should. So far, I haven't had any trouble getting this to work over different computers and stuff, and different NetBeans versions actually. So I doubt you'll have too much trouble, but I can see how it would happen, just because that's the nature of like adding a library and stuff. And this is the last video of instructional material. I might make more. I may or may not make more for like reviews of the final and stuff. Your final, by the way, will be open book. It'll be timed, but I can't like make it closed book. So I'll let you know what you need to study. And it'll be in the normal time. So we'll start preparing for that. I think I was thinking about doing it over a few days, but then I realized people could take it and share the answers. So we'll do it during the normal final time. So prepare for that. Look at the dates. I'll put them up. And if you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget about office hours during normal class time. You can drop into Teams and talk to me. All right. See you guys later. Stay safe. I said all that. I wasn't ready to exit yet, so okay. Now I know where the button is. Bye bye.